General Hospital spoilers tease that the shadows of the past are creeping back into Port Charles, whispering secrets too dangerous to remain buried. When Britt Westbourne was declared missing after a tragic explosion, most believed she had died in the wreckage. But whispers of her survival began surfacing in hidden corners of the city, rumors that only gained traction when a coded message was intercepted by the WSB, one bearing her DNA signature embedded in a digital cipher. Anna Devane stared at the encrypted footage in her office, her breath catching as the last frame glitched into view, a blurred figure with Britt's unmistakable eyes, staring straight into the camera. Elsewhere, Lisa Labrecht stood in her darkened townhouse, clutching an old photograph of Britt. It had been years since she'd seen her daughter's face, and now a new question clawed at her heart. Was Britt being held against her will, or worse, had she become a pawn in the same sinister game that once consumed both Albrecht and her late lover, Caesar Faison? The footage sparked something else, memories Anna had fought to suppress. The dim corridors of the WSB compound where Faison had first captured her. The screams, the manipulation, the cold feel of metal restraints biting into her wrists. And above all, Faison's voice echoing through the years, his obsession etched into her psyche like a scar that would never fade. Britt's reappearance could not be a coincidence. And if it wasn't, then someone had to be pulling the strings. But who? The devil they knew, Caesar Faison, or the one they thought they had vanquished, Peter August? Anna sought out Robert Scorpio, trusting him more than anyone to view this with an unclouded mind. He examined the footage, zoomed in, replayed the sound design, and shook his head grimly. There's more here than we understand. This tech. It's not something Peter had access to on his own. If he's involved, he's not alone. Meanwhile, in an underground lab hidden beneath the Swiss Alps, Britt stirred from a dreamless sleep. Bright lights flickered above her. She sat up slowly, her movements sluggish, unnatural. A nurse entered, avoiding eye contact. Time for recalibration, she muttered, wheeling in a tray of surgical tools. Britt flinched, memories flooding back, fractured images of her screaming in a chamber of light, voices commanding her to obey. Her hand moved to her neck. There was a small incision there, barely healed. What had they implanted in her? But there were no answers, only routines. Tests. Commands. Missions. And then came the message, she was to return to Port Charles. Albrecht received no warning, only a knock on her door late one stormy night. She opened it to find Britt, pale and silent, standing there in the rain. Albrecht gasped, rushing to embrace her, but Britt remained motionless. Her eyes were vacant, lips trembling as though reciting a line she didn't believe. I was rescued, she said. I'm safe now. I just need time to adjust. But Lisa Labrecht knew her daughter. This wasn't the woman she had raised. Something was deeply wrong. Anna and Valentin soon arrived at the hospital, where Britt was undergoing a routine exam. Anna pushed for a blood analysis, and though the doctor resisted, the results revealed a disturbing anomaly, traces of a neurosynaptic control agent once developed by Caesar Faison himself. The formula had been buried years ago when the WSB dismantled his last known lab. But now it was active again, flowing through Britt's veins like poison. Albrecht's grief turned into fury. She stormed into the lab, demanding answers. Was it him? Did he do this to you again? But Britt flinched at the sound of Faison's name. I don't know, she whispered. I can't remember who saved me. But I dream of a voice, his voice, and sometimes, another. Younger. Cold. Peter. Anna's mind reeled. Peter August had fallen to his death during a helicopter crash. His body was never recovered, only a blood trail leading into a frozen river. Could he have survived? And if so, had he rebuilt his father's work from the shadows? The thought made her blood run cold. She had already failed once to prevent Peter from becoming the monster Faison designed him to be. She would not fail again. As days passed, Britt's behavior became increasingly erratic. She spoke in clipped tones, often pausing mid-sentence, eyes glazing over. She would vanish for hours and return with no memory of where she'd gone. Surveillance footage showed her entering restricted areas of the hospital and accessing encrypted WSB files. When confronted, she broke down crying, begging Albrecht to lock her away before she hurt someone. "There's something inside me," she said, trembling. "A command. I can feel it in my head. It's telling me to do things, and I can't stop it." The WSB considered detaining her, but Anna intervened. She proposed an alternative, hypnosis therapy, to uncover the truth. With Valentine by her side, they worked with a trusted psychiatrist to gently pull memories from the fog of Britt's mind. What emerged was chilling. A memory surfaced of a facility, cold and sterile. A man approached, face hidden behind a surgical mask. His voice was unmistakable. "You are not Britt Westbourne anymore. You are my vessel." Another figure watched from the shadows. Peter August. Smiling. The therapy triggered a violent reaction. Britt convulsed, screaming as the implant in her neck pulsed beneath the skin. The device activated, and for a moment, Britt's eyes turned hollow, her voice shifting into a deeper register. "Execute Directive 3. Anna shouted for the doctor to sedate her. But the damage was done. A confirmation that Peter had not only survived, but was now controlling Britt through a cybernetic tether. A blueprint likely conceived by Faison, but perfected by his son. It was then that Albrecht remembered something: an unfinished notebook Faison had once hidden in their home in Berlin. She flew to Germany, broke into the sealed apartment, and found the notebook beneath a loose floorboard. Inside were diagrams, brainwave maps, symbols, and notes scrawled in manic handwriting. At the end, a line stood out. "If she resists, reboot her. If she remembers, erase her. The girl must be the key." Anna read the line again and again. The girl. Not Britt herself. Someone else. They combed through every patient file, every test result, every clue, until they found her. Charlotte Cassadine. It had always been Peter's obsession to rewrite history, to create a world in which the Cassadines, the Devane legacy, and the Faison bloodline all converged into one future. Charlotte, raised by Valentine and manipulated by Helena's ghosts, had always been a pawn. But now she was more. Peter had plans for her. A prototype for psychic control, one whose abilities could amplify Britt's implanted neural link. It wasn't just about manipulation. It was about evolution. And now Peter had both of them within reach. Meanwhile, in a hidden base beneath Montauk, Peter watched the feeds. His body was damaged, burn scars twisted across one side of his face, but his mind was sharper than ever. He spoke to the shadows. "They think I died. But I became more. Father only laid the foundation. I built the future." He pressed a button on his wrist device, activating the next phase. In Port Charles, Britt collapsed mid-shift. Her pupils dilated. Her voice echoed unnaturally. "Charlotte must return. The alignment begins." Albrecht and Anna stood frozen, their worst fears realized. Britt's eyes stared into nothing as the cryptic phrase hung in the air, sending a chill through the room. "Charlotte must return. The alignment begins." Albrecht rushed to her daughter's side, calling her name, gripping her hands, but Britt was unresponsive, caught in a trance so deep it bordered on the inhuman. Anna ordered everyone out of the room and locked the door behind her. She needed answers, and she needed them now. She leaned close, searching for any flicker of the real Britt beneath the vacant stare. But what she found instead was a whisper, soft and robotic, echoing from Britt's lips as if her body were nothing more than a receiver. "Sequence engaged. Primary vessel stabilized. Awaiting signal from source." That word "source" lodged itself in Anna's mind like a thorn. She didn't need confirmation. She knew who the source was. Peter. His hand was all over this. He was orchestrating something far more advanced than Faison ever dreamed. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about evolution, transcendence, control on a cellular level. And if Charlotte was somehow part of this, then the very DNA of the next generation was under siege. Albrecht, shaken but determined, demanded to be included in every step forward.
She's my daughter. I should have seen the signs. Faison may have created the blueprint, but Peter, he perfected it.
The anger in her voice was almost unbearable. She blamed herself for ever loving Caesar, for ignoring the warnings, for leaving Peter alive long enough to build this monstrous legacy.
Anna didn't offer comfort. There was no room for guilt now.
They had a war to fight, and the enemy had already infiltrated their ranks.
Valentine returned from Zurich with intel suggesting that Peter had recently accessed a disbanded WSB neural interface project, codenamed Chimera 2. The original Chimera was designed as a chemical weapon. This was something entirely different.
A psychic weapon, mental manipulation on a mass scale, using brainwave synchronization.
It was theoretical, dangerous, illegal.
And now it was active.
Britt was the conduit. Charlotte was the amplifier.
And Peter was the conductor of the symphony. But something deeper stirred in Albrecht.
A recollection.
A time, years ago, when Faison had spoken in riddles about the inheritance of thought. She had dismissed it then as part of his madness. Now, she realized it was a warning. He had always believed that memory could live beyond death, that consciousness could be coded and passed on like DNA.
What if Peter hadn't just survived? What if he had found a way to merge himself with the remnants of Faison's mind?
The horror became a possibility too real to ignore. That would explain the shifts in tone, the moments Britt described where Peter's voice sounded too distorted, too layered.
It wasn't just him. It was both of them. A fusion. Faison's genius. Peter's ambition. And it was Albrecht's bloodline carrying it forward. Anna made the call. They needed to extract the implant from Britt's spine before it triggered full neurological overwrite. But surgery alone wouldn't be enough.
The neural network extended beyond her body. It was quantum tethered.
Removing it without severing the remote link would collapse Britt's mind entirely. They needed a decoy. A signal scrambler. Someone who could enter the digital minefield and break the connection from within.
Only one person had the background in neurology, technology, and psychological warfare to attempt it, Liesl Albrecht.
At first, Anna opposed it. It was too dangerous, too personal. But Albrecht insisted. He took my daughter. My future.
I will not let him take her soul. Using a newly restored WSB consciousness mapping chamber, Albrecht was connected into a neural simulation of Britt's mind. What she found was more horrifying than anything she expected. A maze of memories overlaid with foreign data. Synthetic voices narrating her daughter's history, rewriting key moments, painting Faison and Peter as saviors instead of tormentors. In the center of the labyrinth stood a memory altar, and on it, a digital projection of Britt, fragile, flickering, unsure.
Albrecht approached carefully. The voice of Faison echoed through the memory walls. She was always mine, Liesl. You only borrowed her. Albrecht clenched her fists. No. She is more than what you made her. She is mine. And I will bring her home.
But the deeper she went, the more fragmented Britt became. The implant wasn't just controlling her, it was erasing her, segment by segment. Peter's voice emerged now, clear, venomous.
You can't save her. She belongs to the new order. I am the future. You are obsolete. Albrecht responded not with fear, but fury.
She unleashed a psychological countercode she had embedded in her own memories, moments of motherly love, laughter, sacrifice.
Britt's first steps. Her defiance as a teenager.
The look on her face when she saved lives as a doctor.
The emotional surge overwhelmed the synthetic constructs.
For a moment, Britt's true self re-emerged, crying out for help. But Peter wasn't finished.
Back in the real world, alarms blared. Britt's vitals were spiking.
The implant pulsed with a violent red glow.
It was reacting to the emotional disruption. A final directive had been activated. If capture was imminent, the subject would be terminated remotely. A failsafe Phazon had built in case any of his experiments turned against him. Anna worked furiously with Valentine to disable the transmitter.
But the code had changed.
It was no longer Phazon's encryption. It was Peter's.
Inside the neural maze, Albrecht made her choice.
She couldn't fight both of them.
But she could shield her daughter. She embraced Britt's projection, surrounded her with the full force of their shared love, and whispered, "Let them take me instead."
Outside, Britt's body stabilized. The red glow faded. Albrecht's vitals, however, began to drop.
Anna pulled her from the system seconds before her consciousness could be severed. She collapsed, unconscious, but breathing. Britt gasped awake, screaming, as if a part of her had just been torn away. The implant was still embedded, but the connection had been cut.
Peter's link was gone. Or so they thought.
In the weeks that followed, Britt began to recover. Her memories returned in flashes, some real, some corrupted, but she was aware now.
Aware of what had been done to her.
She visited Albrecht in the recovery ward every day, holding her mother's hand, waiting for her to wake up.
Anna continued the search.
She traced Peter's last known movement to a hidden facility in Prague. It had been destroyed days before they arrived, burned to the ground, data wiped clean. But one message remained, scorched into the wall.
"I am reborn." No signature. No clue where he had gone. Only that he was still out there. Charlotte was relocated to a secured location, under Valentine's protection.
She had no memory of the event, but deep inside, she heard whispers, faint suggestions that her dreams had been used, mined, weaponized.
Anna stood before a WSB tribunal, presenting everything they had uncovered.
But even they seemed unsure how to categorize what had happened.
Was it science? Magic? Madness? One thing was clear: Phazon's legacy wasn't over.
It had simply evolved.
That night, Britt sat alone on the hospital rooftop, looking at the stars.
She touched the scar on her neck and closed her eyes. Somewhere in the dark, she still felt it, that shadow presence, watching.
Not quite gone. She whispered into the wind, "I will never be your vessel again."
And in a chamber far away, surrounded by data streams and flickering images of Port Charles, a figure stood, half-burned, half-reborn. His voice echoed through the cold steel halls.
"I don't need her anymore. I've already built the next one."
As autumn swept into Port Charles, the air turned colder, not just with the change of season, but with the tension that hung like smoke over General Hospital. Though Britt had severed the connection, the damage had already begun to spread.
Whispers of strange behavior in other patients began circulating among the staff.
Isolated incidents at first, a nurse speaking in unfamiliar languages, a child humming the same chilling melody Britt once murmured under control, a neurosurgeon waking from a blackout with encrypted files downloaded onto his private laptop. Whatever Peter had built, it was no longer contained.
Anna paced through the WSB's temporary command center inside the hospital. The pattern was unmistakable. This wasn't about one person.
It was a distributed network. Peter had planted pieces of himself into the digital bloodstream of the city, into its systems, its people, its future. The implant in Britt had merely been the hub. Now the satellites were activating.
Albrecht had finally awakened, weaker but lucid.
Britt sat beside her every hour, and for the first time in years, mother and daughter talked without fear, without pretense. Albrecht apologized again and again for all she had done in the name of love, in the name of Phazon.
Britt forgave her, because she understood now.
They had both been used. Both built to be vessels of men who thought they could rewrite the future through blood and control.
But they weren't tools anymore.
They were survivors.
And they were ready to fight back.
Anna, piecing together the pattern, realized the next strike wouldn't be digital.
It would be human. Peter's network had grown. What if he no longer needed to control from a distance? What if he had trained others, implanted them, turned them into physical extensions of his mind? The perfect weapon wouldn't be a virus or machine.
It would be a person who believed they were making their own choices.
That's when Charlotte disappeared.
One moment, she was in Valentine's guarded estate. The next, the cameras glitched, her guards collapsed from sudden seizures, and the door was wide open. No sign of struggle. Only a single word carved into the wall: ascend. Valentine fell apart. For all his flaws, Charlotte was his heart. Anna tried to calm him, but she could see the fire in his eyes. He's not taking her. I won't let him. I let Peter into my life once. I won't fail her like I failed him. Britt offered herself as bait. She still had fragments of the code inside her. If Peter wanted her back or wanted to eliminate her, he would come. Anna refused at first, but Britt insisted. He made me into his creation. Let me be the one to unmake him. They staged the event at the hospital, an appearance by Britt, unguarded, near the same systems Peter had once tried to infiltrate. The trap was set, every hallway lined with WSB agents, surveillance woven into every light and vent. Anna and Valentine watched from the control room, Albrecht monitoring Britt's vitals from the medical bay. At first, nothing happened. Then, everything did. The hospital lights flickered, and a pulse surged through the power grid. Every screen in the building went black except for one symbol, the twisted fusion of the Faison and August family crests, an emblem Peter had once sketched in blood. Then came the voice. You still don't understand. I was never trying to control her. I was trying to awaken her. She's more than you ever knew. She is the next Genesis. Britt clutched her head as memories poured into her, ones she'd never lived, thoughts not her own. She staggered into the hallway, screaming as figures emerged from the shadows: orderlies, patients, doctors, all with that same blank stare she once wore. They surrounded her. Anna shouted for extraction, but Britt screamed, "No! This ends now!" From her coat, she pulled the last piece Albrecht had given her. A destabilizer built from Faison's own failsafe tech. It wasn't a weapon, not exactly. It was a code disruptor. But if used while the neural web was live, it would fry everything, including her. She whispered into her comms, "Tell her I love her." And she activated the device. A surge of light filled the corridor. The digital network screamed, collapsing as Peter's voice shattered into static. The sleepers around her fell unconscious, freed from the code. The symbol on the screens dissolved. Silence returned. Valentine found Charlotte in the sub-basement, unconscious but untouched. She opened her eyes slowly, confused, but whole. Whatever Peter had tried to plant in her, it hadn't taken root. Anna and Albrecht ran to Britt, who collapsed in the corridor, the device sparking in her hand. She was alive, but barely. Her nervous system was damaged, her memory scattered, but she smiled as she saw her mother and whispered, "Did we win?" Albrecht kissed her forehead, tears in her eyes. "You did more than that, mein Liebe. You broke the chain." Peter's final message was traced hours later, broadcast from a satellite that detonated mid-transmission. He was gone. Perhaps dead. Perhaps not. But his reach had been severed. His network burned. Britt recovered slowly, surrounded by those who truly loved her. Albrecht never left her side. Valentine, changed forever by the near loss of Charlotte, devoted himself fully to fatherhood. And Anna, haunted but resolute, walked into the future with open eyes, knowing there would always be more shadows, but also more light. And somewhere, far beyond Port Charles, a data fragment pulsed in the void, waiting for someone to find it. But for now, peace returned. Hard won. Fragile. But real.